everybody. It's Spy here, and what are y'all doing today? Welcome to the channel. To any of the returning viewers, we're glad to have you, and if you're new, welcome Spy by Gaming. We make content highlighting games and industry news, and current events mostly. Like our new talks that are going on. I'm guessing you're here because some of that stuff interests you, and go ahead and click subscribe, turn on the notifications, and that way you know whenever our new stuff hits. Don't forget to like the video and do all those other things, and check out our stuff down below in the description. Alright, well, let's get into the video today. So we're doing a little bit of a different video. And today's video, we're actually going to be talking about beginner stuff for Elder Scrolls Online, like the content that you should probably be getting into if you're new to the franchise specifically, or if you're new to just Elder Scrolls Online. Even if you're an old school, Morrowind, Oblivion, or Skyrim player, Elder Scrolls Online brings a whole lot of different things to the table, and we're going to talk about that today. So I got a bit of I got this a bit planned out more than normal. I don't normally plan out any of my videos. I kind of just get on the mic and do whatever. But this time, it's kind of a longer video. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. Or it should be. I don't know if it's going to be that long, but it'll be more informational than... I mean, all our content, I guess most of my stuff is pretty informational, but it's not that kind of informational. So this is beginner stuff, right? And who are we really targeting with this video, or who are we trying to talk to in this video? Well, we're trying to talk to the people who are on the fence about Elder Scrolls Online. Maybe they're not quite so sure if they want to try it out, or if they're maybe just curious, or even if you're still playing. If you're a new player, maybe you're level 20 or whatever, and in the background we're going to put on some footage of my level 30 Nightblade. And he's a bit of a utility healer, actually, so I think that's a good place to, a good character to show off with. He's a bit of a utility character. He's a bit different. I made this build recently, and I think we're gonna probably have a video on his build himself someday soon. But the whole plan today is we're gonna go through what kind of content is in the game for new players, and what you should probably be investing a lot of your time into if you're a new player, because there's a lot of really good things in this game, a lot of very strange places that you probably wouldn't see unless you were subscribed to Elder Scrolls Online. Or had the DLC upgrades, or whatever, however you purchase the game, would probably dictate some of these things. But I think this video is going to be more talking to the people who are new to the game and are subscribed specifically. But however, even if you're a free-to-play player, you're going to have a lot of content to do anyway, so you can probably find a lot of information in this video. Anyway, I think it's time. Let's get into the video, and we're going to talk about our first number one. Our first thing that's coming up is questing, and I think that's a very important thing to do when you are starting the game. The quest lines in Elder Scrolls Online are phenomenal. I mean, some of them are really great. I think the Clockwork City sticks out the most to me. The Dark Brotherhood, another one that sticks out to me. I think even the Thieves Guild. I mean, I think it's a really fun time, and these are more like a main story thing. And most of the DLCs or the expansion passes or expansion packs, I mean, have their own main story, or at least a story that follows the adventures throughout. And I think that's amazing that they write so much for this game. I can only imagine the amount they have to pour through in the hours writing and getting someone to record all these lines. And that's the thing, all of it's voiced. Every NPC in the game is voiced. All the quests are voiced. It's honestly a really great thing to do, and there's a reason that I say you should be questing in a lot of these zones is a reason I would say to quest in a lot of these zones would be for some of the skill lines that you can be picking up. So if you were to quest in Somerset, you will eventually run across the Sigic Order, and they are not too far along into the story, but they have their own skill tree with their own abilities and their own passives. Now, not all of these guys will have passives and abilities, but typically they'll have something there for most guilds that you can join. And that includes stuff like the Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, you know, and the Thieves Guild has their own line as well. So is the Dark Brotherhood, and many others. So Undaunted is another one that's in my mind, but that's for a later game as well. So we're going to talk about the new stuff. So when you're starting the game, I would recommend first picking yourself up the Fighters Guild line and the Mages Guild line as well. You can find these in any major city, but I think that'll really help you out on your adventure, because these things can be leveled up really easily. If you ever see a blue book that's glowing and you read it, that will level up your Mages Guild. If you kill a Daedra, that will level up your Fighters Guild. And I think, you know, you can passively level these things up while you're just going around the world questing and leveling up and enjoying your first experience. These are really fun quest lines, by the way. I mean, like, you know, Clockwork City I think was my favorite out of all of them. That's just because I'm so heavy into the Morrowind myself, and at the same time I really like the Dwarven stuff as well. I think that's just so fun to see. You know, visually they're just spectacular, honestly. And you know, these quest lines, you know, these skill lines have so many good, you know, abilities to them. Like the Sigic Order has an ability that may finish off your character build. And I think that's gonna be really fun and engaging, and especially because, you know, you can level a lot of these up passively, so you don't really have to put in a lot of work when it comes down to it. And the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild have their own abilities too. So I would say do that. You know, go in to a zone that you really like, you know, early on, and I would try to just quest around. You know, get some delve quests, get yourself some Mages Guild quests and the Fighters Guild, and just, you know, make an adventure out of your first time playing. I would really recommend that to everyone. Now, I would say that the original starting, when the game came out, right, they had a storyline, a main storyline, and it's very dated. I don't particularly like it myself. I think it's one of the, I think it's probably the low point in the questing experience. However, thematically, it's pretty interesting in a way, and it does reward you with skill points. So you can actually get skill points by doing questing. You can get level ups. You know, while you're leveling up, you'll be getting new abilities and you'll be getting more skill points. But quests can give you skill points. You can find these for delves, you can find these for the main story, and you can also find even dungeon quests in zones. And that, you know, really reminds me of an older RPG style as well, very sandboxy. Now, in relation to questing, a lot of what we've been going over is also about the zones, and I think this is leads us right into point number 2, things you should probably be doing. Zone exploration is a big part of Elder Scrolls Online. You can go out and get sky shards, and, you know, experiment with your build as well. You know, when you get sky shards, you get 3 of them together. What you do is you can go around the world and you can collect these sky shards. Now, they have these really large beams that peer out into the sky, and there's just these little crystals in the ground. If you go up to one and you collect it, and you'll automatically collect it. They don't take place in your inventory. You just collect them, and if you get 3 of them together, you get a skill point. Now, that can really add a lot of diversity to a lot of your builds. Say that you're, you know, low level, you're starting out, and you don't have enough points to get another ability that you just got. You know, maybe you leveled up your two-handed skill line. Let's say that, and, you know, last level you spent your point leveling up your, I don't know, your racial, you know, skill line. You know, you put a point in there. Well, you wanted to get that new ability. Well, going out and gathering some sky shards can be a quick and easy way to get yourself some new abilities. And you know, that also allows you to, I mean, while you can only use 5 abilities on your main bar and an ultimate, you can have as many abilities as you want unlocked, meaning that you can swap in between them and adjust as you want. And that's really going to be, that's where a lot of the power comes in Elder Scrolls Online, is being able to have a diverse character who can really show a lot of your own unique, really show a lot of your unique creativity in the way you built them. As well as whenever you're exploring these zones, you can find Thieves' Troves and Psijic Portals if you are part of the Thieves Guild and the Psijic Order Guild. Also, scrying. Scrying is another thing that came out as another thing that you can do out in the world, and this came out in Greymore. And you can go out. So you go to Solitude and you talk to one of the people there, and they will lead you on your way to scrying. Scrying allows you to find these antiquity items that are rare in a way. A lot of them, when you start, will be about gold. You'll get a lot of money off of it. And then other ways, other things that you can find are things like mounts, even legendary items later on. So if you really wanted to, you know, really show yourself off as a very distinct character, a good way to do that may be the dwarven wolf that you can find and put together through scrying. As well as while you're out there adventuring and scrying and finding your thieves' troves and sky shards, you can also do Harrow Storms and dolmens, and there's a lot of just public events going on. You know, every now and then you may see these giant metallic anchor-like things fall from the sky, and those are dolmens. They are from the Daedric realm, and Daedra will be pouring out of these things, and if you manage to take them down, you can go get yourself some loot from the zone. And that's really fun. You know, they can be kind of grindy if you want them to be, but sometimes they're just fun to stop by, especially when you're out collecting resources. That's another thing you can do in the zones, is you can go out and get yourself flowers, like herbs, you know, stuff like that. Get yourself blacksmithing materials, whatever you need to you know, further your crafting, which is a very, very important part of Elder Scrolls Online, I think. And, you know, get yourself a head start on that as well. So there's a lot of things that you can be doing that aren't directly tied to leveling, that are definitely beneficial for the character moving forward and can add a lot of fun to your new build or the new design that you're having or whatever you want your character to be like. I mean, as you see in the background, I'm sure the character that I'm playing is a Nightblade, but he is a healer. So, you know, go ahead and you know, find the character you want to play, the way you want to play, and with enough sky shards and enough adventuring around, you will be able to do it. Most likely in Elder Scrolls Online. It's a really free-form game. Now, while we're talking about zones, a lot of things that you may find in the zones are delves and dungeons. I think these should be grouped together, and the main reason is that, as well as public dungeons. These are essentially large areas, like a dungeon that you would find in any other game, like Skyrim or even World of Warcraft or whatever. Delves are smaller versions, and they can be completed by one or any group of people that you want. These are really, really fun. I mean, you can always find a sky shard in one, so that's a good place to look if you're not sure where to find these sky shards. As well as they give you loot depending on the zone you are in, because every zone has its own loot table. And then public dungeons give you higher grade loot, as well as these are meant to be completed by 3, I believe, people. Or even 2. I've been able to complete them with 2. I've been able to complete them on my own as well. But then again, I am a little bit higher level than a new player may be. But these public dungeons are huge. I mean, they can house you know, a lot of people in them. Everyone's running around doing their own thing. You can have your own groups. You can have multiple groups in these giant dungeons, and they can be really fun to be, you know, doing, as well as the new events that have come out in Blackwood, which are the Daedric portals that open up around the world. And these are very similar to that in a way, where, like we were talking about with zone exploration, you can find them and they will, give you some loot for the area. And I think those, that's a lot of the fun is at getting your gear sets, because gearing in this game is very important. I mean, there are 3 different types. There's, all kinds of different set bonuses and set things that you can do, and you can get them through crafting and dungeons and whatever you want. And so, go out there and fight some of these mechanically very diverse bosses. I mean, so that's our next point here is that, these bosses are very, very different than you may discover in other MMOs. From what I've always, what I always say is that the game isn't necessarily about the numbers. It's more about the mechanics and how you do them, especially for a new player. See, if you're unsure of if you're unsure of how much damage you're doing as a new player, I wouldn't worry so much about that. What I would worry more about is, are you getting down the mechanics of the fights? These dungeon bosses are I mean, like, they can take up pretty large rooms. And, a lot of their mechanics will have you flying across the room. You may be stunned, having to dodge things. And learning a good grasp of these dungeon bosses will really help you go forward in the game, especially if you plan to eventually go on to veteran dungeons once you're level 50, and then raids and whatnot. Now I'm going to talk about something that I think goes hand in hand with dungeoning, and that is crafting. You may be wondering, why do you think those go together? Spy, you idiot. Crafting and dungeons can't be farther apart from each other. Well, not in Elder Scrolls Online. Dungeoneering will give you gear, but if you want certain sets in the world, you will have to eventually learn how to craft. I think this is something for new players to be starting on, especially. Go ahead and get your research done. So if you go to your crafting table in any city, any crafting table, depending on which one you're wanting to do, if you're wanting to be a blacksmither, a leather worker, or whatever, you go to those tables. Now, not all of them have researching. That would be that would exclude provisioning, alchemy, and enchanting, I believe. But jewel crafting, blacksmithing, woodworking, and leatherworking or clothing, I mean, all have their own research tree. And what are you researching? Well, you're researching the traits on these items. Now, some of these traits can be very, very powerful. Some things that I would like to bring up are like weapons. If you are running dual wielding, let's say, and you wanted to have high crit, well, you could be running your daggers and get the bonus crit off of that you would get in your dual wielding skill tree and your passives. But you could also go ahead and make yourself you're going to go ahead and put a gem in these things and add a trait to it. Well, that trait will add crit as well to your weapons. So crafting is a very, very important part of this game, and I think it goes hand in hand with dungeons because you will be finding and collecting and managing a lot of different sets, and I think a lot of sets go really well with crafted sets. So if you're finding a dungeon set that you like, but it may have some pitfalls for the class you're trying to build, maybe go and try to find yourself some crafting sets. Where do you find them, you may ask? Well, they're all over. See, Elder Scrolls Online, you can craft any piece you want in a town, but if you want a set bonus, a 2-piece, 3-piece, 4-piece, and 5-piece, you can go out into the world and find these places that hold special crafting tables. Now, they're all over the world, and you may take some time to find them, or you can look them up online yourself, but some of these sets are amazing, I think. Magnus's Eye, of course, is one that really helps with spellcasters. Innate Oxton is one that is for someone who is doing more of a split build between stamina and magicka. You got all these very early build sets that you can get, and what do they require you to have? Well, they require you to have traits learned. So if you want to go out and craft yourself some new sets and some new gear to maybe add on to that giant pile that's growing of all that dungeon loot, I would go out and find yourself some nice crafting tables with some nice sets that you like, learn the traits that are required to do it, and then come back and craft yourself some nice sets. And that goes with exploration as well, and all these things tie into each other very well in Elder Scrolls Online, so I think that's a very important thing for the game, is that if you are wanting to be a crafter, by the way, if you were to learn all the traits, you can learn the title Master Crafter. And so, and you can make money off crafting as well. Some people will pay to get some sets made or some items handed to them or crafted a certain way with certain traits, certain things that they want. And you can make a lot of money doing this. Now, I've personally made a good amount of money crafting sets for people, and I would recommend it to a new player to at least try it out. Crafting is a very important, it's a very a different type of a structure than most games have it today. I would say, if you're coming from another MMO like World of Warcraft, if you're one of the new refugees, welcome. But if you're coming from one of those other MMOs, you might rightfully think that crafting is not a very important part of the game, but for Elder Scrolls Online, it is just as valuable as raiding or dungeoneering. And you can easily play the whole game just being a crafter if you wanted to, sitting in a city. And that's your choice. So, Elder Scrolls Online always has a lot of freedom for people, and I think crafting allows you to express that freedom that you have in the game with a very, very heavy hand. Now, speaking of a heavy hand, I think a lot of people like to do a lot of damage, or a lot of healing, or a lot of tanking, maneuverability, be able to survive, be able to tank this, hit that, do this, And we all want to try these new builds out all the time, because Elder Scrolls Online is so flexible. And you may not want to be trying new builds yet because you're a new player and you haven't quite you haven't quite learned some of the mechanics of the abilities you have. However, as we've already gone through, if you've been following along, you'd be questing, doing your guilds, leveling those up, getting yourself some new skill lines, some new sky shards. You're looking at a new character almost. You'll have yourself a crafted set or two, and you're on your way of getting yourself some nice sets from a dungeon as well. So what I would recommend is going ahead and trying yourself some new builds. If you're a DPS player, maybe try healing. Try tanking. Try, being involved in a different way. Maybe instead of being a straight-up damage dealer, maybe you want to take a bit of a more of a tactical approach. Throwing out debuffs and buffs and whatnot. As the character I'm playing right now is, he's a healer. However, his main focus is not healing. He is a more of a utility caster in a certain way. And, Elder Scrolls Online always has something new for people who are engaged in the content. You get these new sets, you get these new abilities, and you want to try them out. And I recommend going to the way shrines in any city. The ones I always recommend are the ones in Vivek City. So right outside the way shrine inside of the city, there are 2 shrines that if you go and pray to, you pay a little bit of gold, and you can reset your skills, and you can reset your attributes. And so by doing that, you can essentially have a whole new character all over again. And remember, since you're crafting now, or you may be crafting now, or finding new dungeon sets, however you're doing it, you may actually have sets that work better with this new build that you've created, or you can build characters around these sets. Building yourself a character around a set or around a idea that you have. That's a lot of the fun in the game. So I really recommend trying new playstyles. If you're afraid to go heal a dungeon, maybe go heal a delve with a friend, or if you're afraid to if you're like, I don't know if I want to tank yet, I'm not sure of how to tank, well, get yourself a taunt ability, an ability that taunts the target towards you. And, you don't have to spam it, but, keep it up. Keep that up on the enemy in a dungeon or a delve or whatever, and see for yourself if you think you're able to do it. You can always experiment in this game, and you run out into the zones and experiment with what you're doing. Going into the delves, crafting yourself sets, these all interline with a whole idea of the whole character is your character. So if you're not happy with a character that you've made, or if you're level 15 and you got your second action bar, and you're really wanting to try something out, but you spent all your points early on, I think it's about time that you go ahead and treat yourself to something new. Something that you can think of off the top of your head even, you know? If you think it can work, and you put 2 and 2 together, most builds in Elder Scrolls Online are at least are good at one thing in the game. So if you're looking to be a PvPer, you can make almost anything you want, and you can do however you want. Now, while it may not always be viable or it may not always be meta, every class in this game is viable to some degree, and everyone brings something to the table. Just because you don't do a ton of damage doesn't mean you're not useful, and just because you're not exactly the top healer doesn't mean you don't bring a lot of utility. I think, you know, this game really rewards, you know, group activity as a whole. Being someone who is ready to take on the utility role can really benefit the whole group, and really you know, make the runs quick, as you're probably seeing in the background, maybe some dungeon footages in the background, or maybe my PvP footage. But as you can see, you know, having a bit of throwing a healing staff on can change a build inevitably, or throwing a tanking, you know, sword and shield on doesn't make you a tank, but it can definitely save the group in case the tank does die. I think, you know, if you're looking for something to play in Elder Scrolls Online, think within your mind and try it out. You don't know until you've tried it, and if it doesn't work then, maybe go craft yourself some sets. Or maybe go do yourself some more Sky Shards. Anyway, you know, I think that you guys will be alright. Anyway, this has been Spy here, and I'm signing off. I would like to say, you know, thank you all for watching. You know, we're all eternally grateful here for the support, and I'd like to say thank you for the viewers and the people who keep coming back to this channel. We are eternally grateful for all of you coming back and watching this content. We're going to continue to pump out as much content as we can, and, you know, we're always very proud of the people we have in our community. And we'd like to say thank you, and that we are eternally grateful for everyone who's watching. Don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe. You know, leave yourself a comment down below. And I think this week's question, or this video's question specifically, we'd like to ask any of the veteran players who may be watching this video. If you're watching this video and you've been playing for some time yourself, leave yourself a comment down below. Leave down a comment down below for the people who are maybe clicking on this video, trying out Elder Scrolls Online for the first time. Leave them a, you know, bit of a tip or a trick or something that you think will help them. You know, I don't think I've covered quite everything in the game, and a lot of new players may like to know some of the things that you guys know, or the things that you guys have experienced yourself firsthand. Go ahead and leave yourself, you know, leave a comment down below for the people who are coming to this video and coming to this amazing game that we all love for the first time. Anyway, thank you, and this has been Spy, and I'm signing off now. Hey everybody, it's Spy here. Jack, if you're seeing this, because you're my editor and chief, I am in Elder Scrolls Online, right? And alright, so I have the game muted, right? And this is a little bit of a thing, I don't know if many people know, but I want to do this. So what I'm doing this after recording our beginner's guide video. This is like 1 o'clock in the morning, quite a bit later, but I wanted to show that you can buy up as many of these what they're called is unknown, like, region gear. So if you are one of those people who had missed out on some of the exploration, you can buy these pieces up and get yourself some nice sets. And I don't know, I really thought this was interesting, and I thought we might go ahead and just buy up a region that we don't already have. Just why not, right? So let's look at a place I don't have. Okay, I don't have Alakir Desert as much. Let's see. Let's look at some sets here. Which one do I want? It's a good point here. Vampire Lord set. You know what I liked? I would like to get the Vampire Lord set. It comes from Bankarai. Alright, so let's go ahead and buy it up. Let's see what we can get. So, Bankarai. We have 200,000 of these tokens, so let's just buy up a fuck ton of them. We're going to buy 20 of them. Now let's just open them. Let's see what happens when we open them. So, here we go. Open up the first one, Spriggans. We're going to go from here. Vampire Lords. We found another piece here. Alright. Okay. Spriggan set. 7th Legion. Spriggan. Vampire Lord again. Vampire Lord. Vampire Lord. 7th Legion. We got another Vampire Lord. Vampire Lord. Spriggan set. Vampire Lord. 7th Legion. Vampire Lord. Vampire Lord again. Spriggan. We got a Vampire Lord. Vampire Lord. And Vampire Lord. Seems like our vampire is going to have a lot of reconstructing to do, everybody. That means that all these pieces, we're going to learn them on this character. And we're going to go ahead, like, whenever we do it, and that's gonna boost up our vampire now. So we got the set that I really, really wanted, and I just wanted to show that. Anyway, thank you all. I appreciate you all so much. This is a late add-in to the video maybe, and I just really, really like this part. It's a fucking great game.